Welcome back to the channel. I'm Colin and this is the review of the EarAcoustic Audio SPA High-End Max IEMs. These retail for $290. I've been testing these for a couple of weeks now, swapping it with other IEMs in between. I've made an unboxing and first impressions video a couple of weeks ago. You can check it out if you're interested in the packaging and stuff. I've linked the video in the description. I think this will be one of the IEMs that will simply divide opinions. Even just looking at it, some people will like these a lot and some people will just hate them. I'll tell you more about my thoughts in a second. But before we continue into the review, let's dive into the SPA model lineup first. A lot of people are confused about it. So I asked EarAcoustic about the difference between the different SPA models, and they sent me a frequency response graph. I'll put it on the screen now. As you can see, the frequency response between all the SPA models are actually very similar. The graph isn't normalized, so it's a bit difficult to see. From what I concluded, the SPA Pro models that EarAcoustic say is better suited for professional use measure slightly hotter starting at the 2 to 3K region when compared to the high-end models, which is the one I have. I'm guessing the peak in the 2 to 3K region is supposed to make picking up flaws in recordings easier when monitoring, but the difference is really quite minimal according to the graph. Something else that's interesting is that the high-end models have a slight bass roll-off at 50 Hz, only about a 1 decibel roll-off, but that's quite interesting as you don't see bass roll-off in IEMs often nowadays. Here's a table you can compare the differences between the SPA Pro and SPA high-end models. The primary difference is that the Pro has a graphene dome diaphragm and the high-end has a titanium dome diaphragm. After seeing how similar the graphs are, I think the differences in sound quality between the SPA models should be minimal. For the more expensive models, you are likely paying for better quality materials and the labor time used in crafting the shells. That said, if you want the best bang for the buck, I would suggest you get the base model, which is half the price and has a resin shell. Here is the spec sheet of the high-end models. With that out of the way, let's talk about the one I have, the SPA High-End Max. The build of these IEMs are fantastic, probably the best I've seen at this price range. It has a faceplate with a snake on one side and the EarAcoustic logo on the other side. And it surely has a lot of bling to it. The faceplates are actually made from aluminum and coated with clear resin on the surface. And the shell of this specific model is also milled from aluminum. EarAcoustic paid a lot of attention to the details. Even the vent and the grill at the nozzle has a pattern cut out on it. The look of the IEMs may divide a lot of people though. I mean, it's a very flashy IEM with a shiny faceplate and mirror finish. But seeing them in person, I think these give a similar vibe to the Sony Z1R IEMs in terms of looks. What do you think about the look? Is it too much? Let me know in the comments below. In terms of isolation, the SPA seals and isolates external noises very well. That said, you will get a tiny bit of driver flex when wearing them. Before I talk about the sound quality, I want to say that SPA are very sensitive to different ear tips in my experience. In my first impressions video, I used the stock bullet-shaped tips to test them, and the vocals felt quite recessed. Afterwards, I tried them with the stock wide bore tips, and the vocals sounded a lot more natural and less recessed. So my review will be based on these shorter wide bore tips. Now let's talk about the sound. I did most of my testing and listening on the iBasso DX340 and JDS Labs Atom 2 stack. Here's the graph of the SPA High-End Max. I've linked it below if you want to compare it with other IEMs I reviewed. It's a V-shaped, warm-sounding set of IEMs. The overall attack speed of the IEMs across the frequency band is relatively slow to create a sense of musicality, to sound like you are in a room where the music is playing. But if you don't like that kind of sound, it'll probably sound sluggish to you. There is a substantial boost in bass, especially the mid-bass. As I said, the bass is a bit slow, especially if you compare it to many hybrid IEMs on the market. It has a good rumble, but it doesn't hit super deep. There's a good sense of the bass surrounding you when it hits. I really like the bump in the mid-bass when listening to classic rock and blues, as many old recordings usually sound a bit thin, and the bass usually doesn't extend too low, usually nothing under 40 Hz. With the bass shelf sloping into the mid-bass, it just adds the right amount of body into those songs. Due to the characteristics of the tuning, a V-shaped tuning, the mids will sound slightly recessed. But as I mentioned previously, the wide bore tips definitely helps with that. That said, I think low male voices sound really nice and rich with the SPA. It's in some female voices or high-pitched male vocals that I find to be unnatural sometimes. Now, on paper, the treble actually measures quite hot, but in actual listening, I don't find the treble to be fatiguing at all. I do hear snares and sometimes sibilants from vocals playing louder on the SPA, but it doesn't sound piercing even at louder volumes. I think it may be balanced out a bit with the mid-bass boost. The decay and air on acoustic guitars and snares sound clear and has quite a long decay, which I like. I would not consider the SPA to be bright. The dynamic driver of the SPA is highly technical in terms of dynamic drivers. I didn't hear the soundstage shifting or some parts of the frequency falling apart even with busier tracks, but that is probably to be expected for a dynamic driver IEM at this price. The soundstage of the SPA gives you a sense that you're in the center of the performers inside a sphere. You get a good sense of where the instruments are placed, but the imaging isn't really good. Instead, you get a sensation that the music is surrounding you as opposed to being able to pinpoint where instruments are. I also found out that a SPA likes to be driven with more power. They don't require a lot of volume to sound loud, but the soundstage expands and separation improves if you drive them with more power. I like to use the SPA on medium gain with my DX340. So I compared the EarAcoustic high-end Max to the Moritz Dragon and the Campfire Audio Vega 2020. They both retail for much more than the SPA, with the Vega at $899 and the Moritz at $629. All three of these are single dynamic driver IEMs. Let's compare the Dragon and the SPA first. Looking at their frequency response graph, they have a similar styled tuning. When you look at the ear gain region, the SPA actually has the larger scoop there. But when comparing the IEM side by side, they really don't sound bright to my ears. The Dragon actually has more bite and sparkle in the upper mid-range, despite looking more tamed on paper. I think this is mainly due to the speed of the sound, with the SPA sounding more gradual. But generally, I do think these two IEMs sound quite similar at a very different price range, and the shells on the SPA definitely feel more premium than the Dragon. When we compare the SPA with the Vega, I think it's obvious the SPA has better technical abilities in the driver. The Vega has too much of a compromise in the tuning in order to sound a certain way. It's fun listening to some specific tracks, but in most tracks, it sounds unnatural. The bass also has some boominess to it, which really reduces the overall clarity. The SPA definitely has a better balance between being fun to listen to and maintaining the overall tonality of different songs. Every product has its cons, and it's the same for the SPA high-end Max. I came up with 3 cons for the IEMs. The SPA is far from a neutral IEM due to the big V-shaped frequency response. If you want the flattest and most neutral frequency response, I wouldn't recommend the Max. It's great fun to listen to, but definitely not for monitor or studio use in my opinion. Second, it doesn't have the best value. The base SPA high-end model with a resin shell retails for half of the price of the Max and features the same driver. The frequency response graph also looks really similar, so really that will be the best bang for the buck option if you are considering this IEM. For the Max version, the one I am reviewing here, you are paying a premium for this very nice looking aluminum shell. Third, the look. I think the shiny silvery look may be too much for a lot of potential buyers. I think this will possibly turn down some people. so I really would like to see EarAcoustic come up with a more subdued version, perhaps a matte black or even a polished black version of this IEM. Before I jump into the summary, I just wanted to express my thoughts on single dynamic driver IEMs. I know some people will automatically dismiss this IEM because it is a single dynamic driver IEM. Many consider any single dynamic driver IEM that isn't in their budget range to be overpriced. I always get that in the comments. And it is no different for the SPA high-end Max. I just wanted to say, if a single dynamic driver IEM is done well, it can compete with any hybrid IEMs, even in terms of technical abilities. Just like any IEM, you really need to try them out to know if you like them or not. There's only so much the spec sheet can tell you. Having spent several weeks with the SPA high-end Max, I think they are a fun yet technical IEM for the price. It has a fun tuning but yet doesn't go overboard to make them sound unnatural. From the looks of the IEMs, the lineup of the brand, to the tuning, I think EarAcoustic did not play safe with their new releases. It's different from the competitors and they're really making their mark in the crowded IEM market. Whether you like the designs or not, I think you would have most definitely seen them on social media. But an unconventional approach will naturally lead to polarizing opinions. Not to mention this being a single dynamic IEM will just further divide opinions on it. But personally, I'm really excited to see what EarAcoustic will come up with in the future. I really hope they can bring new products that are different from others to the market. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please like the video if you did, and let me know what you think about the SPA high-end Max in the comments below. Thank you for watching.